All right. I think we are live here. Hey, y'all. This is Suzanne. Hello, my tree huggers and tree lovers. I am checking my phone over here on the side just to make sure that it is working and going live on my Facebook page, which it's not doing yet. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're live. We got it. Okay, woo, a little bit of a delay there. Okay, so hey, y'all, tree huggers and tree lovers. I'm Suzanne. And in case you're wondering, I am the founder of 100 for Trees, and what we do is I run 100 miles every month to raise awareness and funds to plant trees because I love trees. And we also do interviews on here with some extraordinary people who might be considered everyday and ordinary, but they are doing extraordinary things. I love the real, I love the authentic. I love to hear about people's stories and where they're at. And so many people so far have been really generous about sharing their stories. And today we have Kevin Silvey, who's the ultra running artist. I cannot wait till he explains the artist part to you guys. And he is also a holistic insurance advisor. And once again, some of you are probably going, what? And so he's going to explain that too. Don't worry. He has an amazing story, an incredible background of some challenges he had to overcome when he was a child, which actually ended up springboarding him into helping so many people in hospitals with his art. So I can't wait for him to come in here and share with us. We're going to drop a couple of links throughout the show, which are banners of how you can find him. And we will connect that afterwards whenever we post it on our YouTube channel, which can be found at 100 for Trees on YouTube. All right, without further ado, we are going to bring in Mr. Kevin Silvey. All right, Silvey man, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing great, doing great. First of all, and I know everyone's going to want to know this, what is going on in the background here? I'd love to hear about that just real quick.
Well, so this is I would say January of 2023. I just decided to go live in the woods. It's, that simple. I wanted to, I needed to, I thought it would be fun. I thought it would be a good idea. And that was at a place in life when I could actually do so. So for the last year, I've spent the majority of my time outdoors, and it's been, incredibly therapeutic. But so this is my little rooftop tent on top of the Overlander. And the Overlander is basically this thing that I live in. And now I do have an address. Let's be clear. If anyone says I'm homeless, that's not true. And but I do have an address in Virginia. I live in Galax, Virginia, and I've been fortunate to be able to live in this on my friend's property. And so I sold my house. I sold like almost everything I had, honestly, mainly to
High five.
start over, like just to start completely over and see where we go. I did have a home, and I was renting it on Airbnb, and I had traveled a lot and had been, in and out of relationships, etc. But at some point, I decided to fall in love with me because I thought that might be healthy mentally. And one of the better places to be is outdoors. And sunshine is so healthy for you. And, it's just really been an amazing experiment. And I've learned how to do my job online. Many clients have no idea I'm outside when we're talking on the phone or when we're doing a Zoom meeting. Sometimes it's from they just know, they don't even realize where I'm at, and it doesn't matter. We do our job every single day. But I learned back at 2020, you don't have to go to an office. It solved a lot for me. I mean, it's sort of good and bad. The business that I've been in has changed so that you can function electronically. We can communicate like this, and you can sign documents via DocuSign. So I finally learned that get rid of the office and get rid of all the other stuff, and go
Yes.
where I want to go, be where I want to be, meet people I want to meet, and just let it fall where it lies. I've been really fortunate. I'm constantly compelled. Even this morning, and I know I'm running on here, but this morning I met a guy, and he is exact subject matter of my book, and we sat and talked for a long time. And there's only two people at this huge campground. It probably holds 40 people. There's two people here. It's like a secret. I don't know what happened. Maybe their listing is hidden. But I've got this great private place for the week. And I'm just a few minutes away from everything at New Smyrna Beach, but I'm technically on about a 15-acre private campground. But the one guy that was here, had great connection. And once it always comes down to this, if you'll open yourself up, the compelling sources will show up.
Amen.
Met this guy this morning, and he's like, "Gosh, you're writing a book on this very subject." And turns out he was a combat medic, and coming home is a rough go for some of these guys.
Absolutely.
He even has a platform where he explains that the Veterans Administration does not have a lot of programs that, in his opinion, work. They are
Right.
flawed. They're flawed. So, anyway, men's mental health and that kind of topic is always fresh with me. And
Well,
it
let's
doesn't
go into
surprise me when I
that.
meet folks.
Yeah, let's go into that, Kevin. I think that was actually one of the things that I found on whenever I found you. I thought this is really cool. You made a really good point when we were talking earlier. So I'm going to start it off with here, and then I'm going to let you explain what your book that you're writing is about, because I think it's a great subject matter. I adored my father before he died. And I have a son, and I love my son, and I have an amazing partner, and I love him. And so thereby, I believe I love men in general, because I love these men, and they have been such an amazing role models and examples in my world. I've found that at times men are not always seen as these positive forces. Can you speak to that a little bit, and in relation to your book and what you're writing?
Well, it's not a surprise when people look at comedy shows, sitcoms, to see the dad is the butt of the joke. The man is, always messing up, creating problems, uncoordinated for that matter in life, not physically, but mentally. So, I think it's portrayed in entertainment that is humorous and that is funny. But the problem is, I don't think many women would really. Did we lose you? Oh, I lost you. Let me back in.
Whoop, no. We got you. We got you.
Thank
We
you.
got you. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
So,
women would
mhm,
not want to live with the comedic partner on television. I don't
mhm,
think they really want that. I don't think that's the way life should be.
mhm.
The 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 solidarity between, say, like children and moms is solid across the board, even in entertainment, even in drama. Um, that's sparking the conversation. But we could go. This is an onion. We could go a lot deeper if we need to.
Well, you shared something with me whenever I was speaking to you earlier. You were saying how there can be people labeled as man haters, and it's actually, you find that it's not the women who are doing that. In your research, would you mind going into that a little bit, just to clarify for some people out there who might want to assume some things about your subject matter?
Yes, that's great. I appreciate you mentioning that. So
Yeah.
let's use an example. I didn't mention this to you yesterday. I thought about this, and I've been screenshotting some of this stuff to sort of, create a little backlog for me to see it. But so if a man offers advice, sometimes it, the reactions come across as it's condescending when he's offering the advice. So what happens is he stops offering advice. Okay. So do you ever notice men sort of put their hands in their pockets and they kind of say, well, I'm done with this, I'm finished with this, I'm no more, I'm not going to help him anymore, let's let him fail. Like a lot of times men get really closed off and tight. And so let's throw that category to the side and let's say, okay, now there's this other area, and the area is the man that's doing a great job. Okay. The David Goggins, for example. Okay. Or the man that's really fit and he's lost a lot of weight and he looks great and he stopped drinking. And then people make fun of him, literally. Like, so David Goggins always gets hate and all kinds of, negative comments. And it's so weird because, he's trying to be great. He's trying to do the greatest and he's trying to do the most. He's achieved the most. Like, if you don't like David Goggins, I'm a little confused. I'm like, what's the insecurity behind all of that? We should want David Goggins to show up if we have a, fire in our backyard.
Yeah.
And he's a
Yeah.
paramedic, by the way. If you have
Yes,
if
he
you have a
is.
broken leg, you might want David Goggins to come rolling in, and not necessarily David Goggins, but men like that. I mean, wouldn't you want a hero? I tell you, this may sound. I want to make this clear because it's a happy environment. But in this environment, one evening we were having a group trail run. Afterwards, we were sort of in the kitchen in a small space grabbing some food, and some of the younger ladies, and they were asking me for some weird reason about advice about guys and men and such. We got into this odd conversation, and I said the fun part is that if this kitchen caught on fire right now, you would want me to save you. So I'm a protector. But you also know that if I was after you, you would be terrified because I'm strong enough to save you. So you should be, respectful of that, but not fearful. But women have been put in a position, and, by the way, it's men's fault that they don't feel safe. So I'll give you a specific example. If you're the guy and you're driving the car and you're following too close, you have a sweet, beautiful, wonderful person in the seat next to you. Let's say it's your daughter. Instead of a 40-year-old female girlfriend, let's make it a 13-year-old girl that you just picked up from school, and you're on your way home, and she is upset. Why? Why is she upset? Well, because the person who's supposed to protect her is making her afraid. He's following too closely to the car in front of him. If he would just back off, honestly, she wouldn't have near the anxiety. And if you asked her, "Hey, hon, what's wrong? What's into you?" She'd be like, "I don't know. I'm kind of anxious." And usually, that guy who's following too close is looking at her, going, "Where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat?" And she's like, "I don't know. I don't know where I want to eat. Right now, I'm just thinking we're going to have a crash. I think that we're going to crash into the car in front of us." And the woman doesn't, in my opinion, speak up to say, "Hey, hon, you're making me feel unsafe." And he doesn't know enough to say, "Gosh, the reason she was in such a weird mood is because I was about to kill us in the car." Actually, she just wanted him to back the hell off of the car in front of them, and then she could think about where to eat. And so, the example is men are supposed to be protectors, but we shouldn't put ourselves in a position where women are afraid of us.
That's really enlightening. I think that is a wave that is that is coming, and it sounds like you're on the front end of it. And especially, we'll have to bring you back on whenever you finish your book. I think this is something that really is uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about. Excuse me, but it really needs to be brought out there. You had, and I'm going to actually tie
So
this
men's
into
behavior.
your art. Men's
So you see,
behavior.
men's
Okay.
behavior. It's and
Hmm.
you may say, "Wow, you went after him driving too close to the car in front of him." Well, sometimes that man is doing that very thing that makes her feel insecure or fearful. Maybe he didn't pay the bill, or maybe he didn't open the mail, or maybe he didn't whatever. But I'm just telling you, a lot of times men are making this thing, because back to your earlier question, I'm blaming the men. Let's be clear. It's up to us as men to figure out how to blame ourselves. It's sort of like this. You should learn to love yourself. You should also learn to blame
Hmm.
yourself for the things that you're guilty of,
Mm.
and not just, oh, I'll just forgive myself over and over and over. No, I mean, we want to try to get better. And I can tell you this, like in that example, if you want to have a sweet ride, stay off the car in front of you, and you'll probably notice the woman in the car next to you, the seat next to you, is probably
Mhm.
much happier if she feels less threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you may say, I'm hoping you have a person, let's don't name them, but in your life that you'll be like, wow, no wonder I didn't enjoy riding in the car with that dude.
Yeah, I think we all have those stories, unfortunately. and
Hmm.
and so this will be great to see the and excuse me, I have a couple of dogs. I have 3 dogs actually, and they're very entertained by somebody out the door. So if you hear barking, that's what's going on.
I
They're
love
protecting
dogs.
me.
They're
So
protecting you. They're right
they
there all
are.
the time.
They are. I know they're doing what they're supposed to do, but I'm like, guys, can we just keep it down for like another couple of minutes? But
Hey,
so
isn't it funny that
you
isn't
Yeah,
it
go
funny
ahead.
that we say men are dogs, right? Some people say that, and then
And
and then
yeah.
you have dogs that are protecting you, and you sort of you make amends immediately. You're like, oh, my dogs are really just trying to protect me. But if
Mhm.
your husband or better half or partner or your
Mhm.
brother is
Mhm.
trying to protect you, it may be misinterpreted. I do believe the sad part is men stop trying it when they give up because they feel
Mhm.
misunderstood. And
Mhm.
that's a bad place. I mean, if you have a male friend, a male in your life, and he stops trying to
Mhm.
do the relationship, that could be bad, you know.
It's the death. It's the death of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, this is a great topic, man. We'll have to bring you on just to talk about this sometime.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry we dove right into the mental health thing. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't know. I think it's a good conversation to have, and especially if you're having a good day. Now, if you're having a bad day and you want to dive into that subject, it could sort of be painful sometimes. But I think we ought to. This sounds so judgmental, but let's be clear. I think this. Some people know more about Yellowstone than they know about how their spouse feels.
oh, so true.
I
So
mean, every
true.
now
That
and then at work, you should have a quarterly review, I hope you would have one every quarter.
Mhm.
Let's say an annual review at most, but most couples don't have an annual review where they sit down and say, okay, how are we doing? Review time.
Wow.
Like if
Yeah.
we had to put out a resume in our current relationship, to say, this is what I got, and let's see how many other people want this. Like, I think what happens is we get into like relationships, and then years later, we have had no review, no spreadsheet, no balance sheet, no
Mm.
double checking, but you run your business tight as a ship and you run your relationships loose as a goose. Um,
Oh,
the, the,
interesting.
this guy I met, and obviously I can't reveal who he was, but and I mentioned to you that he was in the military, so
Mhm.
his name will never be revealed. But let me be clear to you, he was telling me about his parents, and he was
Mhm.
talking about the bad marriage that they had. And I asked him, I said, "Where did your parents meet?" He said, "At a bar."
Ah, says a lot. Yeah.
I mean, don't get
Mhm.
me wrong. I
The
mean, that's where,
foundation.
yeah, I bet when they bought
Mhm.
their first house, they asked, what was the neighborhood like? And is this house got termites? And let me see
Yeah.
about the loan. Are we actually going to be able to afford to make these payments? But so people would put more thought, energy, and effort into buying a home
Yeah.
than the person they're going to spend the rest of their life with and make babies with.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people just sort of, you know, fell in lust, and don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, lust is great, but falling in lust and then calling it love is denial. So,
Yeah. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. It's it's a very pertinent subject for w- whenever you want a community to break down, you divide them, and if you divide the masculine and the feminine, and they're not working together anymore, and you're not there's not a community even built around them to help them, um, because it takes community, I think, also
yeah,
to help them to come together, to stay together, to offset some of the burdens that come along with just life in general. There's a breakdown, and it was never meant for it to be one person. I was a single mom for about 10 years, and it's really hard to be the mom and the dad. And I see that, now that I have a partner there, like, my son needs to see a man. I can't show him how to be a man. I can do my best. I can YouTube it all day long, but it just wasn't working. And I don't want to be the man. I'm going to just say it. I don't. Y'all are doing a great. Y'all have it.
I mean,
I'm fine
you
with
don't look
that.
like a man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. it's it's
I mean,
just I
you got that
it
going for
does.
you.
All right.
No
I
one's
I
confused.
it's been great. Like, now that somebody is the man, it's allowed me to be the woman. And but it's all still in a new phase. So I haven't even, like I said earlier, I love my dad. So I have a great appreciation for men in general because I loved my dad before he passed away. I mean, I still love him, but he's no longer in my life physically.
Right.
But I think I
And I'm
had that setup Right. I had that setup of loving a man and valuing a man, that I can see it and the importance of it. If you're not shown that, and then say a culture comes in and tells you poo poo on this person or whatever, then that's gonna be reflected, and it's not creating strength. It's creating more divide.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for what you're doing and the research you're doing, and it'll be interesting to see your finished product, and we'll have to come back to that. But I'm super excited about you being this ultra runner and artist, and I know that that was born from some pain in your childhood, which if you don't mind going a little bit into that, but I'd love to hear about how that how that how that self-soothing that you learned, you were able to carry into art, and you help people in hospitals to do some amazing things. I was wondering if you could just share a little bit of that part of yourself with us.
Well, gosh, that Suzanne proves you're a great listener. So thank you.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think the thing that we to get back into the flow of what you and I had discussed. I think sometimes people have character traits, not flaws. Like you don't have a character flaw, you have a character trait. There's no flaw. You got to figure out how to stop criticizing yourself and thinking something's wrong with you, because there's always something right with you. Okay. So let's get through that. Like there's always something right with you. And in your own mind, the reason you may think that things aren't the greatest is could have been what you were told. So this is diving in. It sounds like I'm getting away from it, but I'm coming back to it. Okay. So like how you were raised develops every single attitude you have about everything. Like, why are you afraid you're going to bounce a check, or that your partner might bounce a check? Well, maybe your parents bounced checks. Think about that. So that's an example. And that could be painful in your life, because subject matters of money could create a lot of stress. If your parents fought about money, you probably are more inclined to have emotional instability regarding money. And you ever hear about, like, I'll use an example. My brother and I are super close, but he doesn't ask me my checkbook balance. I mean, that's absurd, right? And it's invasive, right? Okay, so everyone has a life that they have developed that was from their upbringing. I use the money as the example. So for me, I had a deaf mother. I'm a child of a deaf adult, is what people call codas. There's a movie out. Coda Point. If you really check it out, it's extremely enlightening. Marley Matlin is the star, and anyway, great movie about people that had deaf parents. I think everyone should see that movie. Personally, I think let's be clear: the things that I gained from having a deaf mother. Uh oh. Thank you.
We lost you for a second whenever you said the name of the movie. Could you tell us that one more time?
But I'm just joking.
What? Yeah,
Okay.
right. Are you making fun of me?
No, I'm making fun of the fact that now that you can't hear me, I can just sign for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Oh, that's so ironic. Yes.
Sorry, Mom. Um, but so having a deaf parent gave me some extremely positive outcomes in life. Being able to spell, I could win the spelling bee, not a problem. I could win the spelling bee as a kid. That was no problem. We had to learn how to spell on our hands, with both hands simultaneously, to eat, to go to the bathroom, to get permission, whatever. I mean, I learned how to communicate without um, audible words, and that helps vocabulary. I believe, in all sincerity, it created this entire love of silly things like the thesaurus. Like, I love the thesaurus. I love to, so like, on a positive note, if you met my mom when I was 8 years old and you wanted to ramble and talk and talk and talk, and then my mother says, well, what did she say? I'll say she was talking about her job and it was great and things are good. And, I would give her the short version, sadly, but she needed the short version because her inability to understand slang would have been enough. So I don't tell her word for word what you just said. The plumber said, "Oh, I can fix that. It's a piece of cake." And because she reads lips so well, she's saying, "We don't have any cake." And I'm like, "Honey, he doesn't want cake." No, mom, no cake. He just said it's a piece of cake. It's a figure of speech. So I think the advantage of having a deaf mother when it comes to communication has been stellar. I've often seen in the boardroom that CEOs are just misunderstanding what they believe they heard. And I have found that I think I'm a pretty good communicator. I've made a living being a good communicator. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that some people would say, "Oh, my mom was deaf," and therefore they want to come up with some, excuse or something that is somewhat negative. And so, honestly, I had some things in my life that were painful that I didn't really know what to do about. And I would say, when I was young, I got married. I got I had 4 kids. They're amazing. They're perfect in every way. I mean it. They're great. Like they're doing super financially. They're doing well physically, and they have healthy relationships. And life is really good. Like I have that going for me. What I want to say though is that after the kids got grown, and I sort of had to reconnect with Kevin, I started to understand the broken parts of the childhood, the neglectful parts of the childhood, the abusive parts of the childhood. And I sort of had to confront that pain. When you're raising kids, you can love on them and read them a book and sing songs to them and put them to bed. It's so therapeutic for your own soul. Now, once they got grown and I was no longer, taking care of my little ones, then at some point I started to realize nobody like, and I don't want to sound like a whiner. Let's be clear, no one sang a song to me. No one read a book to me. No one even, came to my bedside to see if I was yelling or screaming or whatever. Like people debate nowadays. There's a thing recently where they're trying to discover the truth is you should hold your baby. You should rock your baby. You should not put them in the room at 7 p.m. and then walk away till 7 a.m. That's ridiculous. Doctors have been telling people to do that for years, but the truth is now it's being revealed, and I could share some articles about it. But people that weren't nurtured, um,
Hmm.
it's not good. Okay, it's not a good thing, and it doesn't make for a
Hmm.
great adult. And if you think
Hmm.
it's cool to tell your kid to suck it up, um, I don't know. I think they need some nurturing. I think some loving. Because keep in mind they're children, and the sad
Hmm.
part is they become adults, and then that 5% of your brain, that subconscious, that was fully developed by the time you were say 10, depending on which expert you ask. Now your life is on autopilot based on everything you learned for the first 8 or 10 years. Or if you had a traumatic event, I mean, the darn thing could replay in your mind when you're 50. you
Hmm.
you, and people could say get over it. That doesn't work. People could say get past it. Okay, that's cool. They actually will say like develop a relationship with your inner child. I've pursued that. I've studied that. But some of our inner children were not strong enough to handle, and they've been through enough. And to remind a person to, just think about your inner child. Sometimes that's pretty painful too.
Hmm.
So, for me, to answer your question, because you may think, wow, he forgot what the question was. I didn't. So at one point in my life, I knew what soothed and comforted me, and we had a home that I enjoyed so much. We were on a little creek, and every single morning I would get out and I would take my camera down to the creek for years and years and years, and I would read, I would study, I would meditate, I would take photos of all kind of things. It might have been a butterfly, it might have been a leaf floating on the water, and it might have been um, a surprise, an owl, come flying up and sit right on a limb right next to me. But during those quiet moments of me, soothing myself, because as a child of a deaf adult, you have to learn how to soothe yourself. Um, and then also in a house filled with chaos, sometimes I had to escape literally and go outside, get away, run away from the problem. Um, I spent a lot of time in a tree house when I was a kid, literally. And that was the safe place. That was the place you could go for sure. And so we had a two-edged sword. We had freedom, unlimited freedom. We could go anywhere we wanted. We could come in and out as we wanted. Most people would say you had a dream childhood. You didn't have curfews. No one even checked on the report card. Like you could have a bad report card and just forge mom's name and just give it right back to the teacher like you always do and move on, like because no one's checking anyway. Um, but so all this, childhood created this adulthood, and it started to remind me of what made me feel better. So at some point, I mentioned to you that I had a person that had visited. They saw my photo album. They encouraged me, and I was enlightened because I thought, wow, I was just really using these images to soothe myself. I didn't understand other people would be, tapped into that resource. And at some point, I learned about a thing called evidence-based art. My business that I refer to is called Art for Healing Environments. It's art, the number four, healing environments. And so it's real simple. It's waterfalls, it's butterflies, it's sunsets and sunrises. Um, I've mentioned to you this that a butterfly to a 2 year old and to an Alzheimer's patient, it's a butterfly. They both know what it is. They don't know what year it is. The 2 year old doesn't know who the president is, and neither does the Alzheimer's patient. But they know what a waterfall is, or they know what a sunrise is. And so at some point it connected, the dots for me. And I was very fortunate early on to have a hospital believe in me and allow me to use my gift. And it was not my character flaw, it was a trait. And I think it's funny too, because at some point, and I love my dad, he's a great guy. I'll be clear that this is not a negative thing, but I did have a conversation with him at some point, and I said, you've always told me I was too sensitive. And I said, but the truth is, it's a gift. And it sort of, became revealed to me that, I am really sensitive, and that's fine. That's what artistic people are, let's hope. And I would say creativity is really available to people that tap into their sensitivities. And a lot of men are told to suck it up and be a man and don't cry. And if you said you like butterflies when I was growing up, they would call you I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, they would call you something really not nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you told somebody you wanted to be a hairdresser in 1970, they would have said, well, I suppose you're gay. And you're
Right.
like, no, I just want to cut hair.
Right. Right.
But
That's
but
true.
but but men, I think, have been rough on men through the years, and they've not learned how to tap into some things. They think they're flaws. They think they're weaknesses. I finally had a switch in my head where I was like, "Whoa, this is a gift." So now what happens? Years later, and I hope Walter's listening, and I also hope that there's some other people from uh, that side of my life. I hope they get to hear. But Walter, latest project, he says, okay, this room is a trauma room. It's a waiting room. Um, I need you to go in there and tell me what you think. So I go in there, and it's an awkward shaped room because when they remodel hospitals, sometimes they just have to take it or leave it. It was an odd shape, and it's got a real tall ceiling, and it looks like you're stuck in the bottom of a silo. And he had told me that this is like the trauma center waiting area where the parent might be sitting here waiting to fill out paperwork and deal with the fact that their kid's in surgery from trauma, like with an accident on the interstate. This is that environment, right? And so they want me now to walk in that room and to be able to help that person. And so I do that with my art. We mentioned this room to me when I walked in. I was like, I want a way out. I want out of this room. I hate this room. I can't stand this room. So what did we do? We put a tree in there. Put a big, gorgeous tree just
Oh,
right there. And
so
so
healing.
it's sort of like there's a way out of here. Like this room
Yeah.
sucks, but there's a way out, right? And you got to
Yeah.
look up. And so that's just one room. I've been so fortunate to put my artwork in MRI units,
Hmm.
non-ferrous art. That's really hard to believe. Most people will say, "How did you even do that?" And I can show you proof. But we've got like dogwoods on the ceiling. Like an MRI, usually when you lay down and you look up, you would expect to see the sky. GE Healthcare has decided to go with like Getty Images, and they'll always have like a portrait mode landscape. And so you look up and you think, you're looking at a field of daisies, but you're laying on your back. So it's like, oh my
Right.
gosh, you're having an MRI, and now your equilibrium's off because of the image they put on the ceiling, and you feel like you're about to fall off the table. So I gratefully, I'm real grateful for the fact that I was able to get involved in that. But now, if you go to an MRI at certain places, you lay down and you look up, and it's like looking up at the trees, looking up at the
Uh-huh.
dogwoods, and it makes you
Yeah.
feel better. And I don't want the patient to say, I'm cured, I'm healed. I just want them to be able to get the MRI and move on, right? But we
Yeah.
help people now that I've never met with CAT scans and mammograms. And I've even heard nurses tell me that it helps the whole system stay on time. It's
Mhm.
been one of the only things I've done that saved hospitals money. They've invested money into computer systems over and over and over, and every few years they have to get a new one. But the art they
Mhm.
put in continually reduces the cost by making the workflow go through. And so it's
Mhm.
now, I feel like, in a weird way, I helped a lot of people do blood draw this week that I've never met and will never meet. But there's a
Mhm.
lily in that room, and the rubber strap that they put on your little wrist, I mean,
Mhm.
on your elbow. They
Mhm.
say, I want them to pull that thing off, and I want the person to look down and go, "Oh, are you finished?" And the nurse is
Ah.
like, but in it, and it's not just because she had amazing gentle hands, but because hopefully that image on the wall is going to do that thing that only nature can do. I'm telling you, people have misunderstood the power of nature and the pain relief that you can actually obtain from it. It's scientifically proven. If you have an oil painting in your recovery room, as opposed to a waterfall, like a real image of a waterfall, and in my case, we print on canvas so that it looks like a painting, but it's a real waterfall. It's 100% real, and we don't manipulate the images because it's that would get past evidence based art. So evidence based art is, it has to be natural. Like I said, the Alzheimer's patient, the 2 year old, needs to know what it is. If the 2 year old doesn't know what it is, it's not evidence based art. A watercolor painting is not evidence based art, and abstract art is not evidence based art. Um, but so what's weird is climbing up in my treehouse when I was a kid to get the hell out of Dodge, to get out of the line of fire, to go away from whatever was happening indoors. Um, that still works. Like, heck, I'm still in the trees today. I'm out here right now, making myself feel better. But it's all part of, if you take a deep dive and start learning about our nervous system. I would think, to me, the saddest thing, I think, is that we send these kids to school to learn something. And I know what they've learned in the last several years. They learned to keep away from everybody and put on a mask. They've learned all kind of wild stuff about gender. I don't even know what's going on there. I have no idea what to explain, or how to mention what's going on there. I know that we don't need three genders. Like, that's okay. Like, there's females and then there's males. You can be one or the other, or you can switch it up. But at the end of the day, I do worry a little bit about confusion for young people. And I, even more than anything, believe that we've left something out of, um, and maybe it's not the place of the school system, but they do shove a diet down the throats of the American population. We're feeding our kids a school lunch program that was built on some bizarre stuff. Um, we have an issue with kids, but I think they're not learning how to control their nervous system. They're not learning how to say, "Is it okay to be angry? Should I not be angry?" They've dumbed down kids. They tell them to calm down, calm down, calm down. And here's what'll happen in school. Jimmy, if you can't calm down, you won't get recess. Jimmy's like, well, if I don't get recess, I can't calm down. And honestly,
Very true.
Jimmy may have had a lot of food coloring for breakfast and a
Mhm.
lot of maltodextrin,
Sugar.
a lot of sugar,
Mhm.
a lot of synthetic processed stuff, food
Yeah.
coloring, etc. And most people say it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
I tell you what's a big deal. This sounds like a real segue. On a box of cereal, look how many servings are in the box, and then look how many servings are in a box of chili. A can of chili says one serving.
Mm.
A box of cereal says it's like 11, and there's like 11 ounces in the box. And
Mm.
they've been getting away with that. If you do the math, you're like, whoa, there's like 1,800 grams of sugar in this box. I
Mhm.
know, but the label says serving size
Serving
1 ounce.
size.
Like, one
Mhm.
ounce of cereal? What kid eats 1 ounce of cereal?
Right. Right. And
I
who's
think
measuring
cereal
that? Yeah.
cereal should come in a plastic bag. You could just pour the milk right in there and just dump
Mhm,
it right in your throat with like a
mhm,
funnel.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't sound, yeah.
All right, so I answered your question about the health care stuff, but I want you to know something that's really, really. I appreciate you asking. Like, where did it come from? And I can tell you that I believe natural
Mhm,
solutions exist, and if your solutions for mental health include anything synthetic, I would
mhm,
encourage you to try your best to end up with a life where most people don't understand, in my opinion, how beneficial it would be to sort of cleanse yourself from television for a while,
mhm, mhm,
movies,
mhm,
drama,
mhm,
stressful things. There's a lot of products we put in our body that keep us trapped.
mhm,
Um, People that smoke think smoking is not a big deal, but
mhm.
people that don't smoke or have quit, they feel altogether different.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to the reason that that is an example of me saying it this way, the reason you don't notice the soup is because you're part of the soup.
Yeah, right. Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. And I had somebody say one time, uh, "How much shit is tolerable in the soup?" They said, "A teaspoonful, a cupful. How much is tolerable in there?" I thought that was, you could apply that to many different things. And speaking of segueing, kind of going into what you're saying, I know there's people on here who are going to be like, "Okay, what exactly you're speaking very holistically at this time. So what exactly is a holistic insurance advisor?" And so I know that we're kind of running into the end of our segment here, but I want to get that in before, so that maybe some people have a deeper understanding, because I think that's also on the front end of a wave too that's coming.
cool. Well, so here's the thing. I do sell life insurance. I sell disability insurance. Like when people order life insurance or whenever we discuss it, I have tons of companies to choose from, and they work for me. So, like, I go to a meeting, and in the meeting, Pacific Life is at the meeting presenting
Mhm,
to Kevin, and so
mhm,
is Ohio National, and so is Columbia, and so is Jefferson, and so is Lincoln. Like, I could go run through a list of companies, but my point is, I work for, like, my dad asked me once, "What insurance company do you work for?" I was like, "No, I work for my clients, and we find
mhm,
the insurance, right? So we sell life insurance, usually as part of an elaborate process. I mean, I like to work with complicated stuff. We do exit planning strategy for business owners sometimes, buy sell agreements, stuff like that. But I like to work with more complex situations, particularly to answer your question. When a person is looking at life insurance, what do they really know? Many times they don't know a lot about the underwriting process, and they mess up
mhm,
there because they didn't realize, oh my gosh, I applied for insurance, and turns out if I'd have lost 30 pounds before I applied for insurance, I might have gotten a better rate. So
mm,
sometimes they need an advisor to help them understand before they just get online and start clicking. Because if you just get online and start clicking, sometimes you're like, wow, if I'd have done something different. And so, to be specific, you're ordering the best rate, but you're not the best candidate. Like, if you're
mm,
preferred, if you're in super great health and you've never taken medications and you've never had a procedure and you're completely the picture of health, of course you're going to get a great rate, right?
mhm,
I mean, that
mhm,
should make people understand. But I think what they do is they start on their own and they try to figure out how to get this deal or how to cut out the middleman, et cetera. And they don't
mhm,
realize that a person like me could just make him, just help them solve it. We don't get your money, by the way, and a lot of people misunderstand that. The insurance companies pay us a commission out of their reserves. They
mm,
don't say, well, it just is that simple. Now, when it comes to one of the things I've noticed in life insurance world, people will just say, I want 100,000 or I want $1 million policy, and they just make it as cheap as possible. And they don't really want to talk about, why are we doing this? Why do we have this? Who decided $1 million was a good number? Oh, by the way, there's a huge misunderstanding about whole life and term and the difference. And, you know, I constantly see people with policy loans all kind of difficult things to, spend a lot of time on right now. But the short version is they don't know what 30 years of experience could provide. Like if you just talk to a guy who's got 30 years experience, there's probably a good chance I'll save you some grief, save you some time. And then honestly, my reputation's at stake. So I want you to have a good experience. People really need help with that. One of the things that I have always done is I've reminded them there are other issues. Like if you lose your ability to produce an income, that's kind of different than death. And I can't tell you how many people have zero disability insurance or zero knowledge of what their disability insurance plan entails. They don't understand why there are, every town's got the big billboard. If you dial all the nines or the twos, you're going to get this disability person to help you get your money. If I'm like, why do you need an attorney to help you get your money? Why don't we just take care of that up front ourselves? So disability is like I would say a huge fish in a small pond in that regard, because most people don't sell disability insurance. They, like anybody who says I sell insurance, most of them sell health insurance or they sell property and casualty insurance. And then there's the life insurance people, and then there's the disability insurance people, but there's less of us out there, the disability people. In my opinion, if you're not sitting with a holistic advisor, here's what's not happening. They're not taking a spreadsheet and laying it down in front of you and saying, okay, let's look at your assets. Let's look at your liabilities. If you say you can't afford this insurance, why not? Why can't you afford insurance? What are we spending our money on? How much is going towards savings? How much is going towards taxes? I see people that are sort of, I think, they're just confused. They don't make as much as they think because they forget how much is taken out. They they spend more than they think. If you ask them what they owe on stuff, sometimes they'll scratch their head. I'll see 50-year-olds with student loans, which is,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. But I think as a holistic advisor, what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, you don't just come to me and say, I want $1 million of insurance and I give you a great rate and we move on. I would prefer to say, who came up with a million? Like who decided you needed a million? And is that even enough? Or can you even afford to buy insurance right now? Maybe we need to pay off the credit card.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in all sincerity, they need a person to sit in the room with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I used this example. I had a couple that she said, I thought you wanted this gated community, beautiful home, honey. And he was like, I thought this is what you wanted. And they were looking at life insurance because she couldn't sleep at night because she was stressed out and worried. And I was like, you can get some life insurance and be all stressed out and worried, problems not solved.
Mm-hmm.
What's really bothering you is this balance sheet. You've never had a person sit and treat your family like a business as an outsider. And not to pick on my investment advisor friends, I love you guys, but sometimes they just want you to roll over a dead 401k so that they can manage it. But you could
Mm-hmm.
probably manage it yourself if you wanted to. If you have this dead 401k thing, that's an issue. But I think we have people in our industry that touch on one thing or another. Here's your
Mm-hmm.
property insurance, like you ordered. See you later. And they don't even bother to ask you about an umbrella policy. You probably need it in case you get sued. Now, why don't they sell you that? That's because it's $100 and they don't make a lot of money off of it. They probably don't make anything off of it. I think it's just paperwork. So why do I recommend it? Because I'm a holistic advisor. As in, if you'll let me work with you, we'll sort of look at everything. And then hopefully you'll say the reason I bought insurance from Kevin is because he gave a damn about my financial mess and actually helped us put together a plan to, get out of debt. And now some people, like I use Dave Ramsey, I love him for the sake of he's trying to help people. So beyond that, he says that, the only place you should buy insurance is from a certain place. And the only kind you should ever buy is term. He tells people to drop their policies whenever he doesn't know if they've had a heart attack. I mean, you just told a lady on the phone who called in and said, I've got this whole life insurance. And he says it's trash value and you should drop it. Well, what if her husband's had a heart attack? He can't go out and buy a term policy. Cheapest term doesn't exist for unhealthy people. I've had people that just because they take an anxiety medication and they told their doctor they wanted to blow their brains out, they couldn't buy life insurance. It's like, oh yeah, the insurance company doesn't want you to say that you're about to blow your brains out in a doctor's office and they write it down in the notes. And now you want to buy life insurance, right? So it could get sticky. But a
Yeah.
holistic advisor works with you in a way to make sure that you're actually protected, that you're actually, doing the right things, And it's sort of like this. Why should I get your financial information and your health information and not want to take care of you completely? Because now that you've got all that out, now I know a lot about your circumstances and your situation. And so I believe I can make the best recommendations by being a holistic advisor. Is there a certification for it? I've been through all kind of stuff in the last 34 years in the insurance industry, but most people, those acronyms won't even mean anything to you. I'm a life underwriter training council fellow. What does that mean to you? It means nothing. It just means that I've studied a lot about the business, but honestly, what I've learned most is from clients, and
Mm-hmm.
learned most from um, if they let me take a good look. I think what ends up happening is we make better decisions. Now, if for the people that are like, hey, I just want you to get me this little policy and I don't want you to know anything about the rest of my life, I'm like, well, that's cool too. You could probably just do it yourself, Google it, and I'll stay out of that. But if they really want help and they really want, um, the best advice, I think they have to be a little bit more vulnerable, and let's talk. I, that's what holistic advising is all about, is taking
Yeah.
a look at all of the stuff, and even being able to tell people, maybe this is not a good time to buy life insurance. Maybe it's not a good time, or specifically the holistic advising was probably more from confusion from clients when I would say, you don't have disability insurance at work and now you want to buy some life insurance. Do you want to include the exam to at least get a quote for disability? And many people will say, I've never had anybody recommend it. I'm like, really? Like, a financial advisor should recommend that you protect your income,
Mm-hmm.
period. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if you can't eat? What if you can't feed yourself? What if you can't bathe yourself? There's a lot of this. I doubt you'll be going to work.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, I rambled on there, but
No, this is great information. This is Kevin. This has been great. I so appreciate you taking the time and doing this. We didn't even get to hit on the ultra running, so we're gonna have to bring you back on sometime. I know that he's in Florida, y'all, right now because he's about to run a race, 100 miler, correct?
yes, I'm going to run the Forgotten Florida 100. It starts Saturday, and it's out of Tosahatchee, Florida.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous
My
right now.
goal is to get in. I shouldn't blurt it out, but I really, really want to get sub 24. And I know there's plenty of people that say it doesn't matter. You're going to get a buckle whether you get it under 24 hours or not. But I don't want to be out there that long. I just want to come
Yeah,
on in at
I know.
24.
Amen. I completed a 100 miler and I was like 25 hours. And then the next one I did was 29 hours. And I was like, I got to go faster next time. This is taking
Right,
way too long. And that's the
right.
only reason you want to go faster. I agree. That's like, okay, 24, let's go. I can handle like a day in my head here. So, yeah, we won't even talk about the 250 milers, but, um,
Right.
thank you so much, Kevin, for being on
Thank
here
you for your
today.
time.
I've been popping up your banners here on the bottom, and for you guys to go and find him. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. He's got his Art for Healing Environment. Is that it? Environments? Is it plural
That's
or
correct.
singular?
It's got an S on the end of it. Yep.
It's awesome. Okay, great. All right, cool. Check him out. Go throw him some love. Ask him questions. He is somebody who is out there living what he wants to share with you as well. So, what better person to have your back, especially financially, as well as he's a mixture of art too. That's beautiful. So, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on here and sharing with us about your healing with nature as well here on 100 for Trees. We love that. So you've shared your passion, your love for nature, your ability to take that passion and serve other people. That's something we really love here in our community. So thank you so much for your time today, Kevin.
Suzanne, you're awesome. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you guys, that was Kevin. And if you want, go check him out. We have the Art for Healing Environments. He's also on Instagram over here. We got Silvey Man, and you can go find him on Facebook as well. Shoot him a message. He's a real approachable guy. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out and learning over here at 100 for Trees and sharing in our community. Thank you so much. Go check out the website sometime. You can feel free to donate so we can plant some trees. I'm going to be running here probably in the next, let's see, what is today? The 13th. So probably in the next day or two, I'm going to start my 10 by 10. So where we run the whole month, where we do our 100 miles for the month. So stay tuned for that. And I hope that you tree huggers and tree lovers have enjoyed this and that y'all have an awesome day. We will see y'all next time.